I'm Mary Starr with the Wake to Truth podcast. We're delighted to have back again today Sheriff Richard Mack for part 2 of our series on his new book, The Democrat Murder of America. So we're going to pick up where we left off from the previous episode. If you didn't see it, please go back and look for it because it is a great foundation for what we will be doing in part 2. So I want to start off today on this episode asking you, the book makes some pretty serious historical and contemporary claims. What kind of evidence and sources do you rely on most heavily when you're working on this kind of a book?
Well, obviously we did a lot of research, but it was pretty easy. And a lot of us, especially me, have lived through this. I mean, I've lived it and I've seen it face to face. For instance, Sarah Sidner, who works for CNN, who's quite prominent with CNN now, came out to my home in Gilbert, Arizona, to interview me. And you know, when her assistant called her, I call her the AL, assistant liar. Sarah Sidner, obviously calling me from CNN, I was suspicious from the get-go that they were going to manipulate the interview and lie about me. And I said, hey, why don't I meet you in Los Angeles inside the studio? And let's do this live. And, oh, no, we want to come and do about an hour interview. I said, and you're going to use about 2 minutes of it. And so I said, why can't we just meet in New York then? I love New York, and let's go there. Washington, D.C., I'll be glad to go there. It'll be cheaper, you know. And no, we'll come to you. That's what we plan to do. And then they get there, and I have hired a guy to record the entire interview. I paid him $800 to come and interview. She goes, you can't record anything. She goes, we'll allow him to do the audio, but you can't do a video. And I felt like saying, this is my home. You know, I set the rules here, but I didn't. I said, okay, I'll settle with the audio version. And I still have that. But they didn't want to be able to play back step-by-step video and audio. So anyway, we started the interview and I said, the only reason that you're here interviewing me is because in 1994, when I was sheriff of Graham County, Arizona, I sued the Clinton administration. I basically sued the Democrat Party, but I sued the Democrats and Bill Clinton, who promulgated the Brady Bill, a gun control scheme that was promulgated by the Democrats in Washington, D.C., that required sheriffs to enforce this gun control scam for them for free with a threat of arrest if we failed to comply. The federal government's going to arrest us if we don't do what we're told. And so I became the first sheriff in American history to sue the federal government, take it all the way to the Supreme Court and win. And I'm so grateful that 6 other sheriffs joined me in that lawsuit. And Sheriff Prince and I ended up at the Supreme Court together. And Justice Scalia wrote the decision for the majority in June of 1997. We're coming up on the 29-year anniversary of that. But I told this to Sarah Sidner, and I said, this is the only reason you know about me or that I have any credibility whatsoever. In the interview that she did with Anderson Cooper to explain how radical and violent we are, which we're not at all, she said nothing about my Supreme Court case and nothing. In fact, the end of the interview was this. And now Sheriff Mack, after all this, actually trains sheriffs and other law enforcement nationwide. And Anderson Cooper about flipped. And he goes, no way, come on. Oh, no, that's disgusting. Well, it would be a little bit different if she had ever told him she trains them or he trains them about a Supreme Court case that he won in 1997. And the Supreme Court sided with him. He trains people about that case. Don't we all feel that a case that was won by sheriffs should be shared with sheriffs of this country today? There's 3,086 sheriffs in America. shouldn't they all know what this case was about? They said nothing of that. They just made it look like I was some weird wacko that just wants to train sheriffs how to disobey the government, you
Wow.
know? And so, yeah, so I said, at one point she said, well, I'm going to be fair about this. And I go, no, you're not. And she goes, why do you say that? And I said, it's obvious. You work for CNN. You're a paid liar. And that's how it turned out, too.
Well, that's a perfect lead in to the next question I had wanted to ask you. How significant of a role do you feel that the media plays in all that is going on, and also certain institutions as far as enabling the murder of America?
Well, like I said, in series 1, the media is complicit. They're bed partners with the Democrat Party. And they make sure that they protect them. Look at the interview that CBS did with Kamala Harris, and they manipulated it and changed and edited it so she would look smarter. And Trump even sued them over that because they know that's what happened. And so sure enough, this keeps happening and happening. And Southern Poverty Law Center, a national group that lies about me. In fact, I want to tell Jim Jordan and anybody else in Washington, D.C. that's investigating, DOJ, all of you, I want to be a witness, because in 20 years of law enforcement, I never committed an act of violence towards another human being. But yet the Southern Poverty Law Center has said that I'm a racist, which I'm not, and our mother didn't raise us that way at all, that I'm a white supremacist, which I am not and never have been, that I'm violent, which I've never been. How many people in law enforcement can honestly say in 20 years of law enforcement, they never struck, slugged, slapped, or beat another human being? I can say that. I never did. And yet, the Southern Poverty Law Center wants to believe, everyone to believe that I'm violent, and they put me on their top 40 domestic terrorist list in their Intel magazine.
Wow.
And I was on there for a long time. And so, folks, what do we know about the left and their organizations and the media is that they will lie and they will do anything to protect the Democrat leaders in office. And this has been a huge treasonous subterfuge of the Democrat Party and the Democrat media. And when Dan Perkins wanted me to do this, he struck a chord with me. Are you sick and tired of corrupt politicians and the dishonest media? Yes, I am. Where do I get my computer and start working on this book? So that one thing there with the dishonest media and the dishonest Democrats is a huge motivation as to why I wanted to be part of this book.
Well, good for you. Okay, so one of the things I noticed is you were very careful in the book to say that not every Democrat is complicit. Distinguish, please, between the leadership of the Democrat Party versus some of what I would call just the rank and file Democrats, the everyday American who is voting Democrat but not really aware of some of the things maybe they are supporting.
I know Democrats. You talked about a friend in the last series. We all have family or friends that we either grew up with or that we've worked with who are different sides of the aisle. And we believe there's a lot of good people that have been hoodwinked and brainwashed by the Democrat Party. And they're still good people. Like in the epilogue, we talk about a senator from the California Assembly who actually criticized and really assailed the Democrat Party in California. And she says, I'm done with this. You're protecting pedophile criminals who are attacking our children. And I'm not going to do that anymore. How could you do this? And she quit the Senate right then and there in 2024. She quit. But before she quit, she joined with a Republican to get something promulgated in that state. And lo and behold, because of this woman's effort, it was unanimously approved by the state legislature in California. And so that is what we think is the solution. Bringing all the good Democrats to understand what is really going on in our country and have them be humble enough, and the Republicans and conservatives as well, where we can meet you in the middle and fix the devastating problems that corrupt politics and corrupt media have created in our country today.
Well, that is a great example, and thank you for bringing that up. One of the things that I have had such a struggle with is trying to, in my mind, reconcile how can the Democrat Party so support these Islamic foundational, we'll call them, I'm just going to say it, rules and regulations.
Well, Sharia law.
Sharia. How can they support that given their decades-long support of women's rights, which could not be further from what Sharia law is all about? Help me understand that.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats just bounce all over the map when it comes to their political views and what they do. I mean, not only do they not support women in who are Muslims, but these murderous countries where if the woman isn't dressed properly, she can be stoned to death or killed, murdered. And how about homosexuals? They'll murder homosexuals as well. And so and we haven't even mentioned DEI yet, but DEI is another thing about all of this that the Democrats say, oh yeah, we can be prejudice against people who now we can be prejudiced against white people because of all the abuses that the blacks have put up with and other minorities. So we'll do affirmative action, and we'll hire all the people that we can, even though they're not as qualified as other applicants. They get and minorities get into schools easier because of affirmative action and DEI. And then the part about the DEI that I wanted to actually read right out of the book, and this applies to every bit of this, whether it's being DEI for Muslims or people from Somalia, and the people who are creating all this fraud and theft that the Democrats have been supporting and part of. Let's get this. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it actually supports racial quotas and even straying into preference of minorities over other more qualified job applicants as some diluted form of payback for our ancestors' flaws and mistakes. These programs are hurting, not helping. And now we're straying into territories of sexual preference and gender identity, where suddenly it's the government's job to make sure nobody gets their feelings hurt. And everybody is always nice to everybody. And guess what? It's just another kind of prejudice and scam. And the only way to truly enforce this kind of fairness, quote, fairness, is for the government to have its pudgy, smelly fingers in everything, everywhere, all the time. That is why Sharia law is now being promoted across the country, even in Texas, where you're from, and it's gaining strength. And I think that enough would be said just to say this. One more insanity for our list of Democrat insanity, the chapter for that, which we need to add, and that is Ilhan Omar is actually a member of the United States Congress. Enough said.
Yep. Well, I have a different definition or wording for the acronym DEI. It's called didn't earn it. You have to earn it. And if you don't do that, you're simply making it easy for people who are not qualified to be in a position of power that they don't deserve and cannot handle.
Yeah, that's true. And I remember Charlie Kirk making that assertion. Do you really want DEI people flying the next plane you get on? Instead of getting the most qualified people, they got people because of their color, race, religion, or nationality. And
No
that's how
question.
dangerous this has gotten.
Yeah, I don't care where you went to school. I don't care where you came from. What I care about, if I'm on the operating table, I want to know that you were number one surgeon in your class. That's what I
Right.
care about. That you were, and you didn't get it by.
Yeah, I don't care who your daddy was. I don't care
Yeah,
what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. It's the same for everyone. You work hard, you become the top candidate gets the job.
that's right.
That obviously is not true in politics. We know the Democrats don't care if someone is the top person. They only care if that person can win.
Yep, exactly. Okay, well, this is going to be a great stopping point for part 2 of our series. So we hope that you have enjoyed this. We're going to be back shortly with part 3. Sheriff Mack, again, you've done a fabulous job. Looking forward to part 3.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching the Awake to Truth podcast. Visit our website at awaketotruth.org and connect with Mary Starr on X at awaketotruth_ and on Rumble at Awake to Truth Ministries. The Awake to Truth podcast, a beacon of hope in a world shrouded by shadows.